I didn't want to do this the first time. I had such a big resistance towards this idea of doing solo episodes of the podcast. For me, what this is all about is conversation, connections, hearing people's story. A limiting belief that I held initially was, who cares about my story? I'll just dip in here. And the only reason that I ended up actually doing one in series one was because I promised myself that series one would have 10 episodes in it. That's the only reason. I had a guest that dropped out at the last minute, the week that I was due to go live. So I kind of had to step into the void and didn't love doing it. I'll be brutally honest. I did not like it. But what I found was it actually landed with people. It really resonated and it weirded me out. I held so much resistance to recording it in the first place, let alone running it through the software and pulling out clips and sharing those on socials. Like, I uploaded the episode and forgot about it. Now, the things that we resist the most often tend to be what we need to face. That's certainly what landed for me and gave me a lot of belief in, actually, people message and comment when I didn't think that it would be getting any views or any interaction. So that's that's positive. It showed me that I was actually a bit scared of being seen, which I didn't necessarily think because, you've got a podcast, you're clearly not scared of being seen. Well, maybe I was. Maybe I was a little bit more scared than I was initially making out. But showing up anyway really changed something. And I'm a big believer in sometimes you've just got to learn lessons the hard way. And almost that choice of, I feel this or I think that gets ripped away from you. And I'm really, really thankful that that happened with this. But I think that's something to take away. The stuff that you resist is usually the thing that teaches you the most. How? There's so many avenues you could go down with that. Now, just sit with that for a second. Like, what does that make you think or feel? How does that land for you? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Like I said, this isn't about, just being a one-way thing. But moving on, series 2 of the podcast, I've really enjoyed it. What works, what doesn't work, what works best with me. And it, as you go through and do, like, the reason I love running the pod the way that I do, I can pick it up and pull it down. When I put it back down, it was a really good time in my life to actually be like, whoa, I need to park that for a bit. It allowed me to kind of take a break, go away, go on holiday, refresh, start a new career as such, which is obviously away from all of this. But for me, there's been some really key kind of like learnings and reminders and some revealings for me personally, which is what it's all about. I was thinking about it earlier, and when I was driving home from work, I was like, how good is it that I get to have these conversations like on like a semi-regular basis? It keeps me so on the straight and narrow and thinking well, and I just love doing it. It's such a high like value for me that I almost feel bad when I don't do it. And when I finish this series, I kind of roughly know when the next markers are. Like, obviously there'll be a Christmas special, but what about series 3? What happens with that? When would that happen? Who would I potentially speak to as a guest? So yeah, that's exciting of what's in there. But there's something that I really wanted to pull out of this. Of one of the points that one of the guests made, and I want to revisit it because it really deserves more attention than just kind of being spoke about once in parking. It was in episode 13 with Sam Gibson. It's something, this is something that he and I have spoken about for a while. It is kind of an adopted principle from an author called Johann Hari, and obviously kind of like adapted and developed by Sam and over the years. And, it's something that you'll grow to have your own opinions on, because I'm already thinking about it. I'm like, okay, like, I think this and I think that about it. It was the 7 voice. Now, if you haven't already, go back and listen to episode 13 with Sam Gibson. Yeah, it's special. I loved having that conversation with Sam, and it was really, really special. And yeah, big fan. Now, after the podcast, Sam actually sent me a copy of his new book, which I was going to bring in as a prop. Pause a second. So after the episode I did with Sam, Sam was actually kind enough to send me a copy of his new book, Why You Overeat and How to Stop for Good. And honestly, like, this book is the first book in a long time that's really hit and resonated with me. And I'll be honest, like, I fully kind of probably took the voids of what Sam was talking about at face value. Probably paid it a little bit of lip service, which I've been so guilty of in the past. And, I see a lot of people kind of pay lip service to stuff in public and then actually never do anything with it in private, which I'm not willing to do on this sort of thing. I read this book, so I actually took it down to read in a cafe in Bath. It seems a lot of my personal development happens there. It's a place that I love very, very dearly. And I was literally watching, I was like, oh, I've got an hour before the rugby. What I'm going to do, grab a book and I'll read it for a bit. But I'm no reader. It's not a strong point of mine. But I have to say, I was utterly and totally engrossed. I was going to spend half the time editing and half the time reading. I didn't do any editing. I was just engulfed in the book. And it really hit me. And, whether emotional eating and your relationship with food is something that you struggle with or you don't, either or, this book is genuinely game-changing if you sit down and read it. Now, for me, like I said, I'm on my own journey with that and I'm working on it as we go. But this isn't a how to fix your mindset sort of thing. It's a framework for connection, and I'll probably caveat it with improving the quality of your life, which fundamentally, like, when I think about it, is such an important part of this whole thing. The podcast, where I want to take it, what I'm about as a person on like a very, very human level, is improving the quality of your life. Now, you might think, what are you going on about this like book for? But genuinely, Sam actually was weird. Sam messaged me and I literally sent him a book, picture of the book. I was like, I'm about to sit down and read. I told him exactly where I was at. I read that. Chapter 4 was probably some of the most profound and deep chapter of reading I've ever read in my life. Genuinely, that's not me blowing smoke up his ass. Like, I'm not that sort of person. I used to be, not anymore, but Jesus, that was genuinely incredible. And then I started to actually read into the 7 Voids and start to hear about it in practice. And Sam uses examples of his clients and where it shows up for him and how it works for him. And, like, very, very real, very honest, very much like, okay, this is an idea. How do I fit it into my life? And I got to about point 3. So like the third one, which is actually, relationship. I want to go through these kind of one by one as we go. And I was literally sat there being like, I need to go through these one by one, and that kind of be my work on for the rest of the year. Is, fixing. Well, not fixing, because it's not about fixing, working on these voids. Now, for me, I think everyone will be impacted by each of these voids as we get through it. I'm going to just reiterate for the point here. So void 1 is around work, the purpose, fulfillment, and meaning of life. Void number 2 is passion, which is your hobbies, joys, and expression. Number 3 is your relationships, your love, intimacy, safety. Number 4 is past traumas, which is unmet emotional needs. The natural world, it's number 5. Body, energy, and nature. Status in society, where you fit and how you're seen. Number 7 is meaning, hope, purpose, and direction. It's very easy to be like, oh, you might have a great relationship, or, I've done so much work on my healing my past traumas in therapy or in my own work, and, I feel very fulfilled by my work. No, I think everyone has gaps, and we are not fully connected. Now, some people are going to be just generally better off than others. Other people will be really strong in certain areas and really weak in others. But I think there's so much to kind of go through this point by point, to look at each individual point and be like, okay, well, when it comes to work, am I truly fulfilled? Do I feel like I have a purpose? And do I feel like I have meaning? Now, I think with meaning, we forget the meaning of meaning. And the meaning of meaning to me is you get to write it. You get to create what that meaning is. You get to paint that picture. What does meaning look like for you? For some people, it might be, nurturing baby goats on the side of the mountain. And for other people, it might be teaching kids to swim. It doesn't matter because you get to paint the meaning. And the more I think about this, the more time I spend on it, it's very easy to get caught up in superficial goals. Now, I'm not going to sit here and slag them off because, do you know what? I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't, because I do like superficial things. Everyone likes superficial things. Would you like a nicer car? Would you like more money in the bank account? Would you, if I gave you £2,000 to go shopping, do you not think that you would come back with a nice outfit? And a lot of it is kind of these goals that we set for ourselves are very surface level. We forget that deeper meaning. Like, I know this more than anyone because I've set the goal a million times and I've worked with people who've set the goal a million times before. I want to lose weight. Everyone wants to make more money. I find it very hard to believe that you are sat here listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube and you're there like, Harvey, mate, I've got enough cash in the bank. I wouldn't want any more. And in fact, I don't want any. And by all means, send it my way. You're more than welcome to do that. I want to get promoted. I want to progress in my career. Like I said, you're very unlikely to be watching this kind of podcast and be like, well, I don't want to progress in whatever area of your life. Now, given the fact of changing lanes and a lot of what I talk about is work, business, career, like you're going to want to do that. Whether it's showing up online, whether that's for you as a person. I know so many great people who do so many cool things and they don't talk about it. They don't shout about it. I'd love to see more of it and hear more about it from like a social point of view. But not even that. Post on social media for your business. People shy away with it. I used to do it all the time. I convinced myself in my first year of business that I wasn't allowed to post on social media. And admittedly, yeah, it could have been seen as a distraction. But ultimately, as your job, if you're working in this sort of industry, especially for me as a personal trainer, my whole thing was about helping people and solving people's problems. Then why on earth wouldn't I post online? Why wouldn't I happen? Back in 2019, you could get away with some really poor content. And it would slap big time. I wouldn't do that anymore. If I copied and pasted a post 6 years ago, posted it now, Jesus, it would fall off on its belly. But why do we want more? Like, what are you actually chasing? Now, it's almost looking and going back to series one again with Charlotte Melky and the idea of chocolate goals. Not chocolate goals, chocolate goals. Like, what are we actually chasing? Fulfillment, love, safety, recognition, intimacy. Like, if your goals are built on the idea of disconnection, then you will never ever feel enough. And the question that we should be asking ourselves here is more about where am I disconnected, not what do I need to fix. Now that, like I said, and we've said a million times on this podcast before, there is nothing wrong with wanting a goal to make more money or to lose weight or to gain notoriety. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's coming from a place of what do I need to fix? What do I don't like about myself? Rather than, okay, well, what on a deeper level am I disconnected from? Do you not think that's going to make a big difference? And that's certainly how I'm going to change off the back of this, looking at it. I'm going to spend I think for me, goals wise for the rest of the year, I've got a couple of things that I do want to achieve, but there's a large part of this kind of having the bonnet up, as I like to kind of look at it. Let's get underneath the hood. Jesus, I'm not American. I shouldn't be saying that. Getting underneath the bonnet and working on something a bit deeper than, the surface level. Now, I want to share a little bit about, where am I at? What have I been thinking about recently? And I don't know if I really like the word, and I wanted to kind of share a personal mantra. I don't know if I like the word mantra. I don't know if I like the sound of it, but regardless, I want to kind of share this sort of like little message that I've been leaning on I have a couple of these. I'm not going to go into all of them right here, right now, but, and I have kind of spoken about a few of them in the previous series and series 2. But it's this idea of slow is steady, steady is smooth, smooth is fast. I used to rush everything in my life, absolutely everything. I tried to get from one side of the chessboard to the other as quickly as possible. If we weren't going at breakneck speeds, wasn't interested. If I wasn't losing a kilo a week in terms of weight, for example, not interested. If I wasn't packing loads more weight on the machines or on the bar or in the gym, not interested. If work wasn't moving quickly, not interested. If I wasn't getting the applications, or, I was applying to jobs and they weren't moving at my desired speed, wasn't quick enough, just instant abrasion and anger and resistance. And for me, I think this was kind of my way of proving that I was reliable and capable by being able to move at such speed. But honestly, and this has come from talking to people on this podcast and going away and listening and thinking and actually sitting there and, down regulating my nervous system and feeling what it really is. And a big thing here is all of the answers are within you. You just need to be quiet enough to hear them. Pause for dramatic effect. I'm deadly serious. You have so much more within you in terms of the answers, in terms of what you know is right, what you know is true, what your next step might be. We don't give ourselves credit for it because it's so much of this is fear dressed up in disguise. And we're so scared to sit there and see what's really true that we don't allow for the quietness. We don't allow for the stillness. We are obsessed with the noise, and I know if I heard this 2 years ago, I would be so pissed off. And I'd want to slap me through the screen. Maybe that's you, and that's cool. Snap me if that helps. But we need to talk about it. We need to look at this differently. Because I see way too many people in the same way that I was, stuck, causing such distress and turmoil to themselves when I don't need to. And the realization, like, peace isn't a reward you get after finishing. It's what helps you do everything better. Peace isn't a reward that you get after you finish everything. It's what helps you do everything better. This isn't me saying don't work hard. This is me this isn't me saying never be busy ever again. But we need to start looking at things differently, because what slowing down gives you, and it's better to do this by choice. It's better to do this by choice than being forced to. But slowing down allows you to be more precise, to live more intentionally and make more intentional decisions, and to be more present in everyday life, to sit and feel and appreciate the little things. That little bit of arte work on your coffee in the morning, that way that the sky is really pretty at night, and not have to snap it and put it on Instagram straight away. That joke, that interaction that you had at work today, it was really funny. We make thousands and thousands and thousands of decisions every single day, and slowing down and allowing us to reduce that decision fatigue and be more intentional, and rather than knee jerk making like an autopilot decision, which again is something that we'll talk about more as we go, it allows us to make better decisions and actually think about it and be like, okay, well, if I do this, I get this. Instead of doing A that I've always done, get B that I've always done and get stressed out and pissed off about it. What about if I do C and get D? Maybe even E. This idea of fixing yourself, it comes from stress, panic, and fear. Whereas actually sitting there and finding your rhythm comes from calm and trust and reconnecting with your gut. The stuff deep down that you can't ignore. And it's so easy to lose that. I lost that. I was so disconnected from my gut and what those real like gut decisions about what I think is right and what I think is wrong, that you make it based off of nothing more than vibes, and it ends up being right. Whether it's about a person, situation, the next thing, a decision to make. Like, and this is going to sound really, really silly, but one of the times that this really started to become prevalent in me about like, what am I rushing for? What am I rushing for? Was that I got caught speeding twice in very quick succession. And it taught me a lesson. Now, you might be listening to thinking and switching off here. Like, what is this guy saying? You got caught speeding or bad man. Nah, not at all. It happens all the time. And again, I held so much resistance to actually talking about this. But you need to think, why are you actually doing it? And when you do speed, and this is me not condoning it, by the way, if you were to drive down the motorway at 70 miles an hour, going at 80, like the gain isn't that much. And realistically, like your average speed won't be 80 because, there's going to be people in the way, there's going to be people in the faster. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I have to pay the cost of that. I have to pay the price. I have to deal with the points. I have to deal with the fines. I have to deal with having to take a half day off work, being made to feel like a dickhead. But funnily enough, it wasn't about the driving. It was about living too fast. The thing that I came down to of, is this urgency real or is it fear? Like, am I just rushing because like this is genuinely a reason to do so? Or am I rushing because I'm actually scared? And I'm just trying to cover up something. And do you know what? It's completely fine if you are. You're not behind, you're just rushing. For me, when I've slowed down, when I've actually looked at that bigger picture, I've connected with myself, I've removed the noise, the bravado, external gratification. That's when the real growth happens. Quietness, stillness. It sounds hippy dippy, but this hustle culture works so hard that your eyes bleed. There is a time for it. But it's not all the time, to move fast. I've made much more progress in my life by slowing down and just chilling out and knowing when to pick stuff up, put stuff down, by not really getting overexcited about the littlest thing and running off and it being my side quest and entire personality for about 30 seconds and then dropping it down, burning it and never picking it up again. Or, a mild inconvenience comes my way. Client doesn't pay on time, or, you get rejected, you get that no email for a job, whatever that may be. Like, I used to lose my head at that in a big way. I would have gone mad. I've been down about it for weeks. And my entire kind of mentality would shift. Fuck you, you're lost, Larry. But that doesn't bring me what I want. That doesn't bring me this calmness, this peace that I know that I operate incredibly well from. And I think a lot more people would too. You just got to give it a try. But genuinely, you don't have to fix everything. There are times to pick up and put down, to push and to pull. Right here, right now, I look at my week. The first half of the week is push, ready because I'm putting back the second half of the week. I'm going to go off and enjoy my birthday and enjoy the launch of the pod of Series 2. But actually take time to think, okay, well, what's next? What does Series 2 look like? Series 2, Series 3. What does Christmas special look like? What does the next bit of changing lanes look? Success isn't about the end, it isn't about how much you do, but it's about the everyday. You are not successful because X, you're successful every day. When you live that way, slowly that starts to manifest into your life. I can't believe I just used the word manifest. Show up, that's a better word. I'm not completely hippy dippy, I promise. But when I find myself saying things like that, it becomes very, very difficult not to sound it. In terms of taking away from today, where do you feel most disconnected? You don't have to do anything about it right away. Just sit there and go, okay, go through those 7 areas. Work, passion, relationships, past traumas / past programming, the natural world, status in society, meaning. Some of those can be achieved tomorrow. They could be achieved right now when you listen to this. I hate myself for loving it, but a youth phrase of today, touch grass. Oh my God, I love it. I'm not saying that I go outside and every time I go out, to put bins out or whatever, I'm not, I'll touch grass. I sit there and bend over and like touch the grass. But go outside, see some green things, breathe some fresh air, go for a walk, actually feel the light that's not off of, these circular LED things on the ceiling in your face, in your hand. Such an easy one. You don't have to do it right now. Just sit in the field. Do you think that could, if you're spending a lot of your time indoors, you're constantly breathing in air-conned air, you're not seeing natural light. Admittedly, right here, right now, obviously the clocks have just gone back or forward or whatever it is in the winter. And yeah, are you getting up before the sun's up and getting back from work afterwards? Little things like that. That's it. Small, meaningful progress. Slowly, steadily, smoothly. Not rushing to fix yourself, but learning to reconnect patiently, intentionally, and peacefully. You're not behind, you're just rushing. Now, if this episode made you stop and think and you've got this far, please share. Let's get this message out there, because I guarantee that you're not the only one feeling like this. Maybe you've got a friend or a loved one you think you'd appreciate from hearing this. Maybe it's share it on your stories. Maybe it's sharing a clip. And remember, slow is steady. Steady is smooth. Smooth is fast.